Hello, everybody. Welcome to It Was Tuesday with your host, James Chen, aka J Chenzor. I think you just briefly saw my co-host Jasmine just walk on by, but we are going to be talking about a couple of things today that have kind of come up over this past weekend. A lot of people talking about some very interesting things, a lot of things going on, especially with regards to TOing. So let's actually, oops, I actually have the wrong thing highlighted over here on the side. Let's actually highlight the correct thing here and let's talk about this. For those of you who did watch me do the patch notes last week, I mentioned before the stream started, I'm not going to do the patch notes today. I'm going to do that on my regular stream, twitch.tv/jchenzor. So you can check out that if you want to find some archives and stuff like that of that. But in any case, let's talk about some TOs right now. It's been a rough weekend for TOs here. Which kind of led all the way down to basically a tweet that started making the rounds that everybody was talking about. We'll get to that in a little bit, but, a lot of kind of drama situations and just issues going on. I don't want to get too much into details about these situations because I personally don't know enough about them, but I know in the Smash community, a lot started cropping up due to some words from Hacks, a former very, very strong Smash Brothers Melee player who basically was banned from tournaments for a while for some transgressions against Leffen. Again, long story. I'm not going to talk about what side I think is right or wrong because that's a whole journey unto itself. So that's something happened, but basically Hacks was, asking for, begging essentially to be unbanned. And so, this started, going around to people talking, TOs and, what they can do about it. Should they unban them? What is the, time frame to unban? Obviously in the FGC proper, there's been lots of talks about F-Champ and infiltration. People like to talk about them, but also coming up was a player who from the anime community who was banned for, I believe, a couple of years from a bunch of events. Again, I don't know the exact history, but they've recently been allowed back at some tournaments, and that has raised some issues. Because again, the question is, obviously, when are we allowed to let people back in? When are we going to unban people? What is the criteria for unbanning, etc., etc.? But certain TOs were saying, hey, look, we kind of looked into it. This person seems cool, whatever. And a lot of other people were like, no, this person isn't cool. Like, this person has to stay banned. Then the TOs went back and then decided to, reinstate the ban. And then a bunch of people started yelling at the TOs like, oh, you're caving in to this and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's, oh boy, it is a long, crazy, crazy road out there this weekend. A lot of stuff going on. The ban in question on the anime community side was for a player by the name of Shinku. Since I mentioned Hacks, it's probably fair to mention the name Shinku in the anime community. Again, I haven't done enough of the research due diligence. I just came back from DreamHack Dallas, so I haven't really had a chance to really look into it, and I'm not even sure I want to look into it because, oh boy, yeah, it's just, do you want to get involved in this kind of thing at this point? But I mean, from my position, I should absolutely get involved. So I probably will try to do a little bit more research into it. But again, it started bringing up, questions and discussions about TOs and what they should do. But then also at DreamHack Dallas this weekend, one of the most unfortunate things that can possibly happened, and that was in a match between Philippines AK versus Korea's JDCR on one of the matches to qualify into the top 8. And unfortunately, someone previous who had played on the console did not desync their controller, and sure enough, the match was interrupted with JDCR on the basically winning round, with AK with a tiny chunk of life left and JDCR with his full health bar. And the TWT rulings are if that is a third person who is a third person causes the interruption, they have to replay the round completely. If it's one of the players that caused the interruption, they automatically lose the round. But it was a third party that caused it. They had to play the round all over again. JDCR lost. And so what happened was that, unfortunately, JDCR was recently sponsored by a European group that, again, I haven't done a ton of research into it, but from what I've been reading, is known to be very, very aggressive. And sure enough, because they had just sponsored JDCR and he ended up losing, much vitriol was thrown around, and death threats were sent towards Jabali's way because Jabali's running DreamHack Dallas, but all he was doing was following the TWT rules and stuff like that. Basically, there was, it was not a fun situation. Obviously, in terms of the PS5 tournaments, the desyncing and stuff like that, there is a mode that you can turn on the PlayStation 5 esports mode, essentially, that kills all Bluetooth connections. So yeah, hopefully we'll make sure we turn that on at from this point forward, or maybe okay, so what's the reason they shouldn't turn off Bluetooth? But also, if you're a player coming up to a machine, you should check to make sure you, disconnect, unpair all of Bluetooth devices, etc., etc. Right. Okay, yeah. So, the Bluetooth connection for the controllers for the pads are actually the least input lag. Cabled pads have a longer input lag than the Bluetooth. So I guess people are still playing, tournaments with the Bluetooth enabled and such. And so, when you go up to the machine, make sure before the match starts, go to that Bluetooth menu and make sure you disconnect everything, basically. Make sure you disconnect everything. That's a good question, Gundam Jehudi Kai. I remember that was a thing. Oh, okay. So PS5, it's still a thing here, so it's still existent on that. And so Cross Hands is asking the question. What the question is? This rule is bad. If it's bad, what can we change in the rule? And that's the thing, is that this isn't a bad rule. It's about as fair as we can get. We can't really replicate the life. What's the fair way to replicate the life? You would have to go through the match and replicate exactly what everybody got hit by. You could do estimations and be like, you know what? Put him to about 90%, put the other guy to about 10%, and just go. You can't just give the round to the person who was in the lead, because we've seen so many situations where people have made comebacks. Perfects happen every day. You can do it from 10%. Also, that allows for a lot of collusion, people leaving their controllers connected intentionally, and if they want to save their friend. Now, some people have thrown around wild accusations. Do not believe any of the accusations. AK, the Filipino player who benefited from the ruling, trust me, there was no shenanigans going on. Again, never attribute to malice. That's what's easier to attribute to ignorance, kind of thing. There is the ability to say, okay, maybe AK should have been put in disadvantage to recreate the scenario. But let's say we were in a situation where it was like JDCR knocks AK down to 10%, and then AK gets a hop kick, bam! Or he activates a rage art and hits the opponent, and then it goes dead. Was he really at a disadvantage, or was he at an advantage because he got the hit and now he has the ability to have the momentum? You're kind of taking that away from him. It's so extremely subjective at that point. There's like no way to objectively make it fair without just replicating the exact situation it was. And even then, you're going to have a situation where people are going to get cooled down or people are going to be mentally guard broken, etc., etc. It's a really, really, really tough thing. Yeah, exactly, Crosshairs. I just mentioned that. Yeah, the mental state of the players is absolutely a thing. And so it's not that straightforward. It's not a straightforward situation. What can we do as a rule instead? I mean, honestly, I don't know. Because a lot of smart people are writing these rules, and if there was a better ruling, they would probably have, implemented that ruling. This was probably the most fair ruling they could think of at this point. And so, unless someone can come up with something genius that works so much better, it's a tough situation to be in. And we should discuss that too. People saying AK should have forfeited the match. No, no, and no, and no. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, and again, it seems like it's very straightforward. There was another situation. God, was it a professional sport? I kind of remember something happened in a professional sport where something happened. Oh, it was a pool match that I saw that somebody got charged for a scratch because they knocked the ball into the pool table, the last ball, and they won the round. But before the cue ball stopped rolling, the player who won picked up the cue ball, and the judge was like, that's a scratch. Ball in hand to the opponent. And by rules, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. You have to let the cue ball stop rolling, and everyone's like, well, the other guy should have just, shot the ball and just gave it back and just let it go. But then other people are like, no, because that's the rule, and you're trying to win, and there's like honor, should it be honor? And like, dude, this discussion is crazy. And the reason why the pause rule was implemented, that the players don't have a say in it, even though Angry Bird was like, just let's play on, Mena, at EVO, and everyone applauded and stuff like that. Like, even though that happened, the ruling is actually that the players can't do anything about it. And that's to eliminate the moral side of things, right? The moral side of things is, just forfeit. And oh, he won. He looked like he was about to win. But like, dude, there's just so much that goes into that. I don't think it's a good way to deal with it. And yeah, exactly. Rules are rules. AK is just following the rules. He didn't do anything on purpose. He didn't pause the game. It happened. He's just playing with the ruling. He happened to win. I mean, he can feel bad about it and, whatever, but it's not his position. AK, as a competitor, trying to win a berth into the EWC, should not have to make decisions based on his morals and what people think are right in the middle of a tournament. There's just no... You should not, the player should not be forced into that. That's just what it comes down to. The player should not be forced into that. So, Rev Pointo, as Mike Lee has said, it was a third party who disconnected, thus the ruling of play the round over again. So, unfortunately, there was no way to know who caused it or whatever, and whoever caused it was probably like, oh, shit. Either that or they didn't even know. Maybe they were just off to the side with the pad in their pocket and they're walking around and their keys hit the button or something, right? Like, there's really not much you can do. So, as it went, like, Jabali is not to blame, AK is not to blame, DreamHack is not to blame, TWT is not to blame. That's what the rules were set to be. And it was a very unfortunate situation for JDCR. And I mean, Jabali felt terrible about it. In fact, I think they said they're going to try to like cover JDCR's entry into DreamHack Sweden and like maybe even try to help him travel there or something. Again, don't put words into my mouth. I'm not saying that that's what was promised. And people are going, James said that, Jabali, James said that you were going to pay for JD. No, look, I heard that they're going to try to do as much as they can to accommodate it, to try to make it, make up for JDCR. But like, again, that's going above and beyond even what the TOs have to do, right? That's you don't even need to go that far, right? Like these rules have been thought about and a concern for decades. It's been a huge concern since MVC2. Yeah, I was about to say, that MVC2 was one of the biggest culprits of this, especially the Moss sticks, which everyone was using, which had a button on the Moss stick that if you pressed it, usually disconnected it from the Dreamcast. And there was just like this little reset button there that I'm never really sure what it was supposed to be. For those wondering what TOs are, they're tournament organizers. They're the guys who are running the tournament, such as Rick Thayer is the TO for Combo Breaker and for Evo. Alex Jabali is the tournament organizer for CEO, etc., etc. And so this all culminated into people talking about TOs this weekend. So those are the three kind of situations that brought people up talking about TOs. And there was one tweet that started going around that people started replying to. It was just one of those tweets that you just saw it and you're just like, oh, come on. And it just kind of blew up at that point. And you know what? I had it open. I closed it. I'm not gonna show who tweeted it. I don't want to propagate this any more than it already has. But the tweet that came out, what happened to just disallowing wireless controllers altogether, Little Akiba Games asks. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. It's because Bluetooth connection has less input lag than wired connections. And this is true on PS4 and PS5. You have less input lag. So it's actually better to use the wireless controller and is more advantageous that way. And we shouldn't basically handicap the pad players who are used to playing with the wireless controllers. I would say that pad players should hold that. I mean, it's the standard PS5 controller, right? So it is very weird. And yeah, exactly. We shouldn't be at a point where we're handicapping any particular controllers. Whatever people are used to should be allowed outside of the specific SOCD cleaning, etc., those kind of things. So again, we're not really in a position where we should be able to say, you can only use wired controllers, suck it, pad players, kind of a situation. But all these things led up to this tweet, and yeah, it probably is the tweet that you're thinking of, Gundam Jehudi Kai. But basically the tweet, which I will read, because, I mean, the tweet basically says, many TOs are egomaniacal social climbers who use TOing to hold a position of authority over talented players despite accomplishing nothing as players themselves. They are social parasites who only care about status. Understanding this makes navigating the community much easier. They continued by saying, same for many controller modders and commentators. They want a fast pass to popularity and social status without having to do any of the actual work that competitors put in. Any position of authority is going to attract people like this, so stop pretending TOs are any different. Okay, first of all, they might be right about commentators. I don't know. Like, commentators, maybe you could justifiably say that. But TOs? like TOs? You're actually talking about TOs trying to be social climbers, trying to hold a position of authority over talented players despite accomplishing nothing as players themselves. They are social parasites who only care about status. All right. The best way for me to address this as quickly as possible is that if you are a social climber and you want to hold a position of authority over players without putting any work, if you are a social parasite and you want to become famous and gain clout and popularity and fame and fortune and become important in your community, and you're trying to do it by being a TO, you're an idiot. You are the biggest idiot in the world. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And, you know, it's fair for me to say this because I know so many TOs, and I know the amount of stress and pain and suffering and financial commitment and just absolute stress and loss of hair and just and rapid aging that I've seen from so many people who are trying to be a TO. There's literally no benefit to it. It reminds me largely of, a very similar conversation is, you know, when people are saying, oh, girls do cosplay because they're trying to get the attention of dudes. That's all they're doing. They're not real fans. They're just doing it for the attention. And, you know, my ex was a cosplayer. I know how much work goes into that. There are 700 bazillion ways for a girl to get the attention of guys that are a lot easier than cosplaying. And I'm sure most cosplayers will tell you that, you know, your pool of potential candidates is probably better elsewhere. I'm just saying, okay? That's all right? Look, sorry. I'm just saying, look, the amount of work that goes into being a TO is so incredibly high. And like I said, most people who have actually gone into don't worry about the nerd shade, Psychodamo. I can say it just like I can make jokes about Chinese people because I am Chinese. I can make jokes about nerds because I am a nerd. So, but most of the reason why TOs ever get into being a TO is largely because they had to step up where nobody else would. That's like basically the main reason. There was a thread that started going out that was like, I became a TO because, and most of them were like, nobody is not, most people are like, I'm a fan of this game. Nobody was running this game. So we stepped in and did it. And we just kept doing it. Yeah, exactly, right? Super Combo GG, absolutely. And the funny thing about it too is that when people ask me, like, what's the best way to start a local? What's the best way to make a successful local? And my answer to that question was consistency. Because I tell everybody the same thing every single time. The first week you do it, you're like, yes, I'm doing this thing. This is really cool. By the second week, you're like, I'm doing it for the community. I'm doing it for the community. By the third week, you're like, I really wanted sleep tonight. And by the fourth week, you're like, God damn it. The whole point, the whole way you create a successful local is consistency in spite of the fact that it is one of the most unenjoyable, frustrating, tiring things in the world. It is absolute hell to consistently run a tournament for every week, just like having a consistent weekly. I mean, when we used to see stuff like Wednesday night fights and everyone's like, man, why don't they run the tournament earlier? It always ends at like 1 or 2 o'clock. Yeah, and then the TOs have to stay until like 3 or 4 cleaning up. I mean, you don't think the TOs would like to run the tournament earlier and end it earlier? Like, they're the ones who have to get there like 4 hours before the whole thing starts and leave 2 to 3 hours later to get absolutely no money and to get yelled at when the stream goes down because of internet problems or some console happens or something, and people are like, why do these TOs suck? You know, like, you think that people are trying to do this because they want clout? If you want clout, there are a lot of other easier paths to go, you know, and again, like, now, obviously, we're not going to, you know, say that none of the TOs, you know, who do get big, do enjoy some of the power and maybe flaunt it a little. That has definitely happened. We've seen stuff like that before. Some of these TOs do get banned or basically run out of the scene from time to time, you know, and again, it's never one way. That's just the thing. It's not one way. Like, when you try to point out the good TOs, the original poster of that tweet was like, you know, 2 examples of good TOs doesn't make everyone else not like this. But the TOs that you know, like, that are like that, don't make everybody else like that either. You're gonna have so many people of different personalities who do become TOs. Are some of them get to the point where once they start getting big, they enjoy it, they start feeling the power, or, you know, the ability to assert themselves or kind of throw some weight around? Sure, but how many of the TOs actually ever even get to that position, right? Outside of Wednesday night fights and anything that's happening at NLBC, right? And you know, and the majors that we know. Like, who's actually ever gotten to that position? The amount of people that you can count in that position are just a tiny amount. And again, some of the people who run these tournaments, I know personally. And if any of you people out there try to tell me that John Choi is the biggest clout chasing, you know, because he couldn't hack it as a player, if you're trying to tell me John Choi ran NorCal Regionals because he couldn't hack it as a player and he was looking for clout from another path, you are an idiot. You're just an idiot. Like, honestly, like, if you don't know who John Choi is, I've said in the past, he is the greatest. He is one of the greatest players of all time. I still don't think that there's anybody in the world who is better at throwing fireballs and the projectile game than John Choi, even to this day. And he ran NCR at the expense of his own wallet year after year after year. He was not doing it for clout. He was not doing it for power or anything like that. He was doing it because he felt like NorCal deserved a scene. And the same thing about Alex Valle. He was running Level Up and stuff. And yeah, okay, was he trying to turn Level Up into a business that he could make money off of? Well, yeah, well, why not? But that's the thing, right? Like, is Valle being like, I may not be making a lot of money doing this stuff right now, but the clout and the power that I have because I, Alex Valle, could not hack it as a player, you know, now can assert dominance over these other people. Like, what? What? You know, like, now this person is from the Smash community. You know, I can't say anything about the Smash community and if it's different over there or whatever like that, but I really doubt it is. Most people who become TOs become TOs due to circumstance, right? So Rick Thayer only became the TO of Combo Breaker because he became friends with Keats, who was running UFGT, and then Keats was done with UFGT, so Rick kind of took over and became the TO of Combo Breaker to continue UFGT. Jabali only became a TO because somebody said, I'm throwing this great tournament. I think they said it was going to be on a boat or something. All these people signed up for it, and that TO disappeared and took everybody's money from the Florida region. And Jabali was like, that sucks, but you know what? I will run something in my garage or in his house or wherever it was to make up for it, and we'll call it CEO. And it just ended up getting bigger and bigger. Same thing with Larry. If you actually looked at Final Round, the very first Final Round was in somebody's garage with fold-out tables, and they were just doing it because they just wanted to have fun. And, you know, these things ended up growing. I don't think any of these people are doing it for the clout. I think a lot of people are just doing this because they're like, our community deserves this. Nobody else is putting up the effort. I'm going to do this, right? Mono, I mean, there's very few players out there, TOs out there, who have probably gained as much, you know, power as Mono has in Puerto Rico for running First Attack, because, you know, the government has talked to him. You know, he's a big key component to like the tourism group for Puerto Rico. He's at all this stuff. And then you meet Mono and you talk to Mono, and he is the most humble guy. He is so nice. He is kind. And all he wants to do is, he won CEO. He beat Punk in grand finals at CEO 2019 or something like that. It was one of those CEOs. He beat Punk in grand finals with Fung. He's not running First Attack for clout because he couldn't make it as a player, okay? That's not why he's doing this. For the most part, if you look at everybody who's become a TO at some point in time, almost all of them are doing it for very, very selfless reasons. Now, on the online world, things have gotten a little bit different because a lot of people feel like, okay, content has become a powerful thing. And so you see a lot of people throwing tournaments. That's why we have 1 million tournaments online now, right? You know, NuckleDo is throwing his own tournaments, Smug's throwing his own tournaments, Yipes is throwing his own tournaments and stuff like that. So you see a lot of people throwing tournaments, but again, are these people doing it for clout and to be able to, you know, hold sway over people? Again, listen to the names that I said, right? NuckleDo, who just qualified the EWC at DreamHack this last weekend. Smug, Yipes, like, dude, these people are all amazing players, right? The reason why they're doing it is for content, right? And for sponsor obligations and stuff like that. This is not something that they're doing because this is just as part of the content world now. In order to try to be relevant in the space, because everything is streaming, digital, YouTube, Twitch, etc., you know, streaming and having content is an important thing to have. That's why they're doing it, is for kind of like a self-imposed content obligation, right? This has nothing to do with trying to gain clout, etc., right? So it's just, we aren't... This statement is just hogwash. It just is. It's just absolute, complete, utter nonsense, okay? Egomaniacal social climbers who use TOing to hold a position of authority over talented players despite accomplishing nothing as players themselves. They are social parasites who only care about status. Like, it is just literally... just so untrue. And I know people who tried to run tournaments and were like, we're going to be better than Evo. We're going to be bigger than Evo. And then they run their tournament and they were like, fuck. Jesus Christ. Like, one person who literally like, we're going to do a tournament better than Evo. After they ran their first tournament, in which one player showed up at 9 a.m. and didn't play their first match until like 9 or 10 p.m., and it was kind of a disaster. I looked at the TO afterwards, didn't say anything, and he was like, nope, you're right. I have so much more respect for everything that the Evo staff does now. He's like, I'm sorry. You know, it is, and then on top of all that, like I said, you know, the financial stress, the just plain stress, the amount of vitriol and hate that you get. You get so much hate for being a TO. Like, the amount of just people blaming you for everything. Like I said, Jabali got blamed. And I want to point out that obviously on my title sequence over here, you know, I have a picture of Jabali. You know, I I put the picture of Jabali there. Please do not interpret it as me saying that Jabali is only doing this for clout. I put him up there because he has an ego. He's, you know, he is very proud of what he's accomplished, etc., etc. And it's kind of the inside joke in the FGC. And like I said, I used to hold Jabali accountable for that. I used to be, you know, I used to not like that. But again, the amount of work that this guy has put in, and I have talked with him in private before and stuff, the amount that he is trying really hard to do great things for the FGC, you know, is immeasurable. The stuff that he has done, he's done a lot of wonderful things. And again, I don't care who you are, death threats are just not cool. Like, nobody deserves this, man. Nobody deserves this at all. The initial urge to bring a major to your area is strong, though. I went through that phase in the early 2000s. Absolutely, it is. I mean, a lot of times you're like, but the thing is, when you think that way, Little Akiba Games, it's not, I want to run a major here so I can become king of my area. You're like, the most egotistical part that you might actually run into is like, I want to run a major here because none of these other MFers can do it. Like, they're all lazy, they're never going to follow through, and they're going to quit, and it's going to be a disaster, and our area will be shamed. So I'm going to do this because I can do this better than any of you guys, and our area deserves a major. That's basically what it really comes down to, right? Lee says, as someone who used to help TOing in Brazilian Smash tournaments many years ago, it is hard AF. Holy shit. Yes. And yeah, like the egomaniacal part is only just that you think you can do it better than anybody else. And a lot of times maybe you don't think that's true. You know, it is just that thing where you're like, you know what? I know I'm a capable person. I've organized events, and that's another one too. A lot of people who do TOing have had histories of helping run local concerts, have helped learn how to run conventions, etc. And they're like, I have the skill set to be able to successfully pull this off because I know what to expect. Because again, when people ask me for advice on how you run an event, one of my number one advices is it's not how you prevent the fires, it's how fast you react to the fires, because you're not going to prevent the fires. Every tournament that has run wonderfully, like you watch a combo breaker and like the stream goes great and everything goes great and it's run on time and everybody's like, that's so amazing. And then you go up to the TO like Rick Thye and you're like, hey, tournament's running great. How are you feeling? And they're always like, oh dear God, you don't even understand how many fires I've had to put out. This happened, that happened. Fire marshal called, this, you know, this room crashed, the air conditioner died, you know, our building got struck by lightning, true story. You know, like the rain caused the ceiling to collapse at a venue and Red Bull had to come through and save us and actually find another venue. Like the amount of shit that has happened and the ability for a lot of the TOs to make it so that the attendees, and the people at home watching don't even notice is actually insane. The amount of stress that you have to go through, and every TO you talk to, by Friday rolls around, you talk to them, I've gotten like 2 hours of sleep in the last 2 weeks. You know, like every single time, dude. And most of the TOs are just like, I just can't wait till this is done. I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep. You know, like that's really, that's just how it is, honestly, right? So, right, and Little Akiba Games is saying like, exactly, I tried to do it because I wanted to grow my area. No one else was stepping up. What I wanted was to be a top player in my area while some other schmuck carried the load. Exactly. Exactly, right? It's crazy, dude. Like, true story, says Gundam Jehudi Kai. One of the Revolution tournaments in the UK lost their venue on day one. We had to scramble to find a new venue and set everything up for day two. We ran without sleep. Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing for Evo East when we rented a bunch of TVs to play on This was during the Dreamcast era, and the company that actually was going to rent us the TVs were like, hey, sorry, the TVs that you all tried to reserve, we didn't get them all back. But don't worry. We'll hook you up. We'll send you a bunch of flat screens for free. We'll upgrade you to flat screens for free. Display lag. And it was a disaster. And we drove 50 miles to a 24-hour Walmart where Tony and Tom Cannon just busts out a credit card and was like, see those 21-inch CRTs? And they're like, yeah, give us 20 of them. And he bought like 20 of them on the spot. Now, of course, there's so much more to this story. It's been told a million times, but like, that was the weekend that made me drink. I used to never drink. I used to be really adamant against it. And that weekend, after the whole tournament was done, I was just like, fuck it, let's drink. Oh, there's so much more to that story. It's out there. I know Tom and Tony have told the story. I've told the story millions of times. But yeah, we did that and literally drove up back to the venue at like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. The sun was coming up to unpack all the CRTs and set them up before the tournament started. Chris Lee, who is one of the main guys helping run Evo nowadays, just pulled up literally after driving 6 to 7 hours from DC because of traffic with his friends Mike Creaky and David Wright. And they saw us pulling up all the CRTs, and he looked at all of us and he looked at David and Mike Creaky, and then he was like, all right, boys, let's move some CRTs. Like, they literally just drove like 6, 7, or it might have even been 10 hours or something like that. And as soon as they got there, all they did was help us carry CRTs to unpack. And trust me, today people might not know, but CRTs were really freaking heavy. Really freaking heavy. All right? It's not like how it is today where we're carrying around all these flat screens. CRTs were heavy. It was work. And so everybody who showed up on the night before and saw the flat screen monitors, everyone said, Evo East is ruined, don't come. Like, they walked into the venue the next morning and all of a sudden they had nothing but CRTs. And they were like, damn. But again, the whole thing about this, the reason you tell this story and stuff like that is this is what TOs have to go through. It's not about preventing fires. It's about how fast you can react to them and if you have the capability to react and fix the problem, which is why I have never tried to be a TO. Because if I was a TO and something like that happened, I would curl up into a fetus position on the floor and that would be the end of it. I'd be like, I don't know what to do. Oh my God. So, you know, it's not a fun job. Yes. Do you have to kind of be a type A personality person to do it? Yeah. John Choi definitely wasn't, but that's why he was partnered up with Canada at the time, and Canada did a lot of the work there. He had friends like Alex Yoon who helped him out as well. A lot of people who are have a lot more of that A-type personality to help him out. So again, if you don't have the capability of doing it, you hire the people that can help you do it. But most of the time, there is no level of self-benefit to trying to be a TO. Like I said, have some TOs been struck with power before? Yeah, absolutely. There's some TOs who really enjoyed having that position and kind of flaunted their power before. I'm sure that's happened, but then again, like I said, that's human. Humans are human. And again, what a lot of people have discussed before, there's a lot of psychological studies out there, is that people who do get into positions of power and or wealth, a lot of it comes down to they tend to lose empathy. They tend to lose empathy to justify kind of their position. You don't do it on purpose, it just kind of happens. But then also another thing too is that because you're in that position, like I don't even want to think about the amount of vitriol that Jabali has gotten over the years. Remember, he's the guy who's running CEO in Daytona. Do you know how badly Jabali just gets bombarded with hate? for running the event in Daytona, you know, like, and it's just, like I said, that's a whole long story there too, as well. And again, the worst part about it is when you're in a position like that and all you do is get hate over and over and over and over and over again, you tend to kind of get desensitized to it. And it sucks, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of the things that I've intentionally tried to avoid being in the position that I am in the FGC. I get a lot of hate. A lot of people hate my commentary. A lot of people hate me being as a woke person. A lot of people hate me, you know, just as a personality, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, it's easy, you know, when you listen to the quote, oh, if you have haters, you're doing something right. You know, that's the common thing that people tell you, right? Like, you know, you're doing something right if you have haters. And it's easy to embrace that and turn yourself into a cynical, cold, kind of tunnel visioned person. And it's not good. It's not good, right? And it's a problem. And so, you know, obviously someone like Supercom was like, nah, James, you've been my favorite commentator. You're good money and everything. It's a conscious effort, right? I try to make sure that I don't fall into that. And I've told lots of people, if I ever get to that point where I feel like I'm above everybody else, please punch me in the face to remind me that, you know, I have become evil, basically. Google's company motto used to be do no evil. That went away. That is not their company motto anymore. It was probably at some point in time where they were just like, we don't know it. And that's it right there. So, you know, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, yeah, and as like Mike Lee said, is a lot of these people have been outed and kicked out of the community. A lot of the people that were problematic TOs have been removed. There was the very, very famous Revelations, aka gamers for like health game for something, active gamers or what it was. Like that whole group, they changed their names like 3 times, tried to run different events all the time, and basically you basically have they got ousted. They're no longer around this point anymore, you know, and they actually owe a lot of people money on our, and have disappeared. Is that hate you mostly get online? I mean, Peter061, if you just hang around in chats long enough, you see a lot of people just saying shit about me, and then on Twitter as well. But, you know, no one's ever going to say anything to your face in person. That's just how it happens, right? That's just how it happens. And again, if you are in this chat right now and you want to come up to me and be like, James, I actually think you suck as a commentator in person, I would be like, hey, at least you had the guts to say that to me at my face, so I can't even be mad, right? Oh God, have you not been watching my stream, Radaka? I deliver sweet profanity all the time on stream, on my own stream. Oh man. But yeah, again, like it's none of the TOs are doing this for clout. And in fact, maybe one of the only things that this person wrote that is actually correct is when they said same for controller modders and commentators. Not true about controller modders, maybe because in the Smash community, controller modders are very important. In the FGC, it's just not as much of a thing. But commentators, like, sure. I think if you wanted to try to become famous and gain clout and popularity and fame and fortune without putting in any work, commentary is actually the correct path to go. Because I'll tell you right now, being a commentator, like I said, although I get hate and everything like that, is probably one of the easier routes to that exists in the FGC, except for the fortune part. In fact, I was talking to Mena RD this weekend at DreamHack, and I was like, you know, we were just talking about something, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this because I'm broke right now. And he was like, you can't be broke. You're a commentator in California. And I was like, dude, I am so broke right now. You have no idea. And he just looked at me. He's like, man, if we don't win, we don't gain money. And I was like, dude, trust me, commentators don't get paid a lot. So again, if you are trying to gain fame and fortune, you might be able to gain fame. You're not gaining fortune by being a commentator, basically, because I can tell you right now, in the FGC, in our area of the FGC, I don't know anything about Smash, but I know for sure Melee commentators aren't getting paid crap because there's just no money in a lot of Melee events, right? But in this proper FGC area, I don't think there is a single person who is living any sort of baller, comfortable. I'm not even talking like baller. I'm like we are earning middle wages. Like we are actually earning a livable life above the mean, commentator in our scene, from doing it purely by commentary. I don't think that exists. Like maybe Tasty Steve might be the closest one, but Tasty Steve's not rolling in money. Like he's not going like, yeah, make it rain kind of thing like that. I'm trying it. I certainly am not making it rain. I'm broke as fuck right now. And so like, it's not the right path to go that direction, honestly. Most of the best commentators, you included, clearly do it out of passion and a love for it, says Radaka. Yeah, same thing as a TOs. A lot of it is like that. A lot of it is like that. And it's really tough too, because I mean, honestly, yeah, commentators, it does happen a lot because a lot of people do try to become commentators. And, someone mentioned in here, in fact, since undercutting is these people's best weapons to get that position, definitely no fortune, right? And again, like I said, not everybody, there might be a few out there, but not everybody is out there intentionally undercutting other people. They're just, because they're not full-time commentators and they have a day job, they're like, hey, I can do it for less. And, so, hey, I'll do it for less money. And so TOs will be like, okay, we'll hire you. And so all the people who are trying to make a living off of commentary can't do it because they can't compete with that. Because again, another thing too is that we don't have the statistics on commentary on how different viewership will be based on commentary, right? Like, in StarCraft, you knew like early on that if it wasn't tastosis, if it wasn't tasteless and artosis, like people would be mad, right? Like they brought in viewers, right? But the truth of the matter is, even let's say if me and Ultra David made it so that Combo Breaker top 8 was 50K viewers. And me, and day nine for sure, Bretonian, and Joe Commentator and Mike Caster made it so it brought in 20K viewers. So we brought in over 100% of viewers. In the end, those numbers mean nothing. 50K viewers is like nice, but in the end, that really doesn't matter, right? In the grand scheme of things, if we're not getting into those 100K viewers, it's really not significant enough to really say, yeah, if we get 30K viewers instead of 50K viewers, our entire budget goes to hell. Like, no, it's not going to make that much of a difference. The amount of money you're going to get from ads and views for an extra 20K viewers is not going to break your budget. Let's just put it that way. And so it's really hard. It's really hard for us commentators to say that. So again, while commentary is probably the easiest path to clout, fame, etc., it's definitely not the quickest path to fortune. In fact, if you're in the FGC and you're trying to do something in the FGC for fortune, you're just in the wrong place. You're just looking in the wrong place right now, honestly. Oh, man. Yeah, exactly. Me and Tasty Steve making it rain. We're not in that position. So, even then, talking about commentators saying they want to fast pass the popularity and social status without having to do any of the actual work that competitors put in. Like, you talk to someone like Ultra David, and like Ultra David is very like shy, like you wouldn't imagine, but he's shy. Like when we're in public areas and we're together, when people recognize us and start talking to us, he usually tries to let me do a lot of the talking and stuff. He certainly wasn't doing it for clout and popularity. In fact, I think he was doing it at first just so people could know he was a lawyer. So he would get more cases as a lawyer, and I was only doing it because I just felt like at the time I was one of the only people who could, because I was an FAQ writer. I was a tutorial writer. I was good at, and I had a lot of empathy. I had the ability to make sure I wasn't the genius professor syndrome, where the person talking about everything just sounds like they know everything, or I wasn't the person that just like didn't know what to say or was just going to be up there making jokes all day. I knew I could be in a position where I could explain things better and help educate. And my goal, the reason why I wrote FAQs and all that stuff like that for my whole life, was to get more people to play. That's the only reason why I do commentary. That's the main reason why I do commentary. And it's the main reason why I still do commentary, because I still feel like for the giant swath of the audience that's more about the emotion, about feeling and connecting with players and loving the stories and everything like that, I feel like I am probably the best commentator at doing that. I really do. I really, really do think I'm the best. And like I said, I am imposter syndrome. I think I suck at a lot of things. But when it comes to commentary, connecting people to the players, I think nobody is better than me at that. And I don't know how this turned into talking about commentary and me basically trying to talk myself up here. Sorry. I don't know how this is about TOs, not commentators. Why are we doing? Okay. But yes, that's what I like to do. And the stories that always make me happy the most are when guys come up to me and they're like, dude, my girlfriend doesn't even like fighting games, but she likes watching it when you're commentating. Or the story that one guy literally told me that their girlfriend, who never cared about fighting games, was watching him play online one time, and she was like, you don't frame trap enough. And he was like, what the, huh? And she only knew what a frame trap was because of my commentary. And, stories like that are the ones that mean the most to me. Honestly, that's what I enjoy doing. But okay. Stop talking about me. Stop talking about. So the point really was that, maybe commentary, some people do try to use commentary as a fast pass to notoriety and fame and stuff like that. But, if that's your intention for doing commentary, you're not going to be long in the commentary scene. You're just not going to be there for very long. And yeah, I mean, just this weekend at DreamHack, some people in the chat were like, oh, James, I commentate the obvious Chen, and because Super Combo said, I like James's commentary because he's noob friendly. And that's absolutely intentional, because we're at DreamHack. A lot of people are going to be watching this are new to fighting games. It's DreamHack, right? People wandering in the background at the venue itself who might just stop and start watching. They're new. When I commentate Evo, I commentate it very differently than when I do commentate an online CPT. If I commentate DreamHack, I'm going to commentate it very differently than I commentate an online CPT, because there's an audience of people who know fighting games. There's an audience of people who don't know fighting games. And depending on the event, I will gear my commentary one of two different ways a lot of the time. So, and again, the other crazy thing too is that the funny thing is when you actually watch like professional sports, people are always like you watch basketball and they'll be like, oh my God, you had the nice pick and roll set up over there. And they never sit down and they're just like, oh yeah, pick and roll is this and blah, they try to keep it very overall, very clean, right? Like they're trying not to go nuts. And a lot of times when I do try to explain something in detail, then people are like, stick to commentating the match, James. And I'm like, whatever. Anyways. Anyways. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, Gundam Jehudi Kai, is that, you know, if you, like, for example, if you listen to me commentate a Tekken match, for example, I will be spending the most time being like, oh, he caught him while crouching. Oh, he hit him with the low. Oh, nice throw. Oh, he broke the throw. Oh, he got him with the launcher. Like, there's no substance there. I can do it, and I can intentionally try to find a way to make it sound interesting. But clearly, I don't know what is going on enough to really be detailed, right? Like, literally, like in the Gachikun match against, I forgot who he was playing, but I was like, look, I think it was against Phenom. He's like, he's throwing the shorter wind shot to get him to whiff the drive parry. So he's using his meter a lot more often. You know, I say these days, I can do that for Street Fighter. I can't do that for Tekken, dude. I can't do that for Tekken. It's just not gonna happen. So, you know, there is definitely a difference for when you are really commentating the obvious and when you are not. Again, back to TOs. Even when you don't understand the game, you do try to explain some of the nuance. I've heard commentary which is literal play-by-play. Yeah, so what I do then is I try to ask questions to the experts. So when I was at ArcSys, you know, I studied a lot for Grand Blue and Under Night, but I also spent a lot of time asking questions to Brett and to Ebonic Plague about, you know, the games, or just being like, they could have did this, right? Or, you know, and just, you know, trying to be the conduit for the people who are new to the game. So, yeah, and that's a good way to put it, Bretonian, that, you know, I'm good at finding the big picture and strategy. Yeah, I think about this a lot. I have very different strategies when I commentate stuff. So, don't blame Ebonic Plague. A lot of people got to be nerfed, okay? A lot of people got to be nerfed. Unless there's a specific story, Gundam Jehudi Kai, that is evidence of that. But yeah, again, back to the TOs. TOs, I mean, like, it's not a fun job. It is not a fun job. It is almost purely pain and suffering. And the other worst part about it too is usually when your event makes money as well, as events have, you know, certain years, like CEO and Combo Breaker haven't made money in a while because they're still trying to make up for a lot of the money they lost during the pandemic, right? But, you know, there's some years that CEO has made a profit. Like when you actually take that money and spread it to everybody who worked for free, like everyone got paid like $100 or whatever like that. And even if there was a profit, you know what happens to that profit, right? Is that it just goes to the event next year. It just goes straight, like they don't touch that money. They don't get that money. It's just that every year you run a tournament, you're supposed to make it grow bigger. It's supposed to get bigger and better. That's what happens every year. And so if you actually make money, it just goes into next year, because next year you don't know if you're going to make a profit. And most likely you don't. And if you don't, hey, at least last year's profit helps cushion this year's profit. So it's there. Like, we have to understand how it is. And, you know, it's really interesting too, because, you know, we can even see this from the bigger corporations as well. You know, this will be one of my last thoughts on this subject here. But we can see this from even the big corporations. There have been a lot of big corporations who've tried to get into the FGC, and they are not successful. And why? Because they run an event, and they don't get as much audience to show up. They don't get as many viewers on stream. Whatever they're trying to sell, merch or whatever, doesn't get as much. And they're like, the FGC is poverty. Forget this. But there's one brand out there. There's one corporation out there that doesn't care about profits when they run an event for the FGC. And that's Red Bull. Because their goal is not to make money from Red Bull Kumite. That is not their purpose. The reason they are running it is because Red Bull sells culture. Their market is culture. They always do all those crazy off-roading BMX stuff. They do surfing. They do that guy who skydived from space. They do parkour. They do white water rafting, etc., etc. Their model is not about these events. They're selling a lifestyle. They're working on their brand. So when they run Red Bull Kumite, they spare no expenses. But because they have no care about the profit, they work very closely with the FGC. It feels very FGC. They get to do a lot of cool things. And you can see that it works. Everybody loves the Red Bull Kumite stuff. Red Bull Kumite has been awesome, like almost without question, every single time they run one. And it's because they're not worried about profit. If you are a TO and if you are a person and you think that you can gain massive profits and clout and power by running tournaments, like I said at the very beginning, you are an idiot. You are literally just an idiot. Like, you are picking the absolute most difficult, stressful, and unthankful path possible to try to get to that point. Honestly. Venue fees are absolutely insane. Dude, everything's insane right now. Everything is insane. And yeah, I know I've seen a lot of people really frustrated with the Evo prices and stuff like that. I mean, it's a little bit higher. I mean, the hardest part is that when you were a spectator for Friday and Saturday before it was really cheap, if you didn't buy the Sunday ticket. So if you were a person whose finals were run on Saturday and you had no reason to go on Sunday, you saved a lot of money. Now, because the venue is all going to be one place, you buy a ticket for all 3 days. But that means at least the third day you can go back there, play more games, play more 2XKO, play more betas, do more stuff like that. And so you have a little more ability to also come in and out of the stadium as you go and stuff. So if you did buy a ticket on Sunday, the price is minorly more expensive. If you didn't buy a ticket for Sunday, it is definitely a lot more expensive. And it is kind of a frustrating thing. And I get it. Yeah, I get that. But again, I mean, imagine, oh God, yeah, anyways, look, it's just really expensive right now because of the pandemic anyway. I don't know. I don't know what kind of stuff you're going to be getting, with the registration. I have no idea. Red Bull has a lot of soccer teams all around the world. They loop the money they got from the lucrative stuff to run the non-lucrative stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that too. Again, it's really just about building a brand, a culture. They are marketing a culture, a lifestyle. They are not marketing a direct product. And, you know, by all intents and purposes, they're doing a great job with it, I think. I mean, it seems to be working pretty well. So, oh yeah, if you find me at Evo, Super Combo, absolutely just let me know and we'll take a picture for sure. Again, if you see me at Evo, please walk up and don't be afraid to talk to me. I am very nice. And if I have no time and if I am in a hurry, trust me, I will let you know. Trust me, I will let you know. So, you know, again, sum up, closing thoughts here. This statement is just ludicrous. I know I just went an hour long talking about something that I could have just said, this tweet is horseshit, and move on. But again, that's not my goal, right? I'm trying my best here to discuss things and, you know, discuss evidence and talk about things that I see. Like I literally talk to a lot of the TOs. I literally communicate with them, and, you know, a lot of them are open with me about, you know, whether they lost money or earned money this year, that year and stuff. John Choi even one year was like, fine, you guys think TOs make a lot of money, and he literally just posted publicly their entire like budget spreadsheet, and literally showed, I think they made like $100. Like they made $100 that week. They actually earned like $100 bottom line or something like that. So Snow Sea says, I will bite you. No, I won't bite you. Don't worry. I'm not Blanca. Okay. So yeah, it's there's no, and again, like, I don't want a blanket statement because, it's never fair to blanket in any direction, right? So yeah, are there TOs that maybe have done this for the clout, for the power, and they're really enjoying it? Yeah, absolutely, I'm sure. No, well, they probably didn't do it for the power. They probably were like, I can do this because I'm better than everyone else, and they start doing it, and because of that type A personality, they're able to turn it into something successful. And then do they have, is there an egomaniacal side to them that makes it so that they are flaunting their authority and power? Absolutely, I'm sure it's happened. And in fact, I can think of cases where it has happened. I can think of cases where people tried to do that and failed, but it's happened before. But again, it's not the norm. It's just not the norm. And if you see what all the TOs have to go through to run these tournaments, I mean, again, when I said the venue getting struck by lightning and taking out the power, that happened to CEO. What was the big Smash tournament that had the ceiling collapse on them because of the rain, and that Red Bull had to come and basically just like front them a whole venue, and everybody had to go to that venue to go and play? I feel like it started with an A. It was a big Smash tournament, and yeah, it was just like, it was a disaster. Like literally the entire building collapsed. The ceiling collapsed like the week before the tournament, like literally the day before the tournament, and everybody going to the tournament had already flown out to the event. So it's not like they could just, Apex, that's what it was, Apex, thank you. And they just couldn't cancel the event because everybody flew out there. They spent all this money on hotel and stuff. And so they had to do something, and they somehow managed to pull through with a lot of help from Red Bull. Again, it's just like, if you are doing any of this stuff as a TO, and every TO will tell you this, like, it's hell, dude. Running an event is hell. And even running these online tournaments, dude, like I've run online tournaments before, and that's not fun either. That's a lot of work too. You require a lot of people to help you with that, especially when it gets bigger. I used to run those Shoryuken scrimmages, and they were like 16 people. And I basically had to have one of my friends, Investigation Cone, actually do all of the TOing on the Discord side of things so I could actually run the stream and make sure that I didn't accidentally destroy the stream and stuff. Like, it's crazy. Running weeklies is a lot of work. Ranma0005, I just ran into him this past weekend. He'll tell you. He's a TO out there for a major tournament. If you want me to say, I can say it. I won't say if you don't want me to say. But he knows, dude. He knows. He knows because he runs one of the big tournaments out there currently. And it is pain. It is a pain point. It is a very, very big pain point running these events. So I enjoy running the locals here in Costa Rica. It gets me out of the house because I work from home. That's actually cool. But yeah, I mean, you think running it is fun. And like I said, the best way to make a weekly succeed is to be consistent. And the only way you can be consistent is to be a martyr. You have to be willing to not have fun at the event. You have to be willing to get there 4 hours earlier, leave 2 hours later. Do it even if you didn't feel like it. Because if you ever cancel a week, if you cancel 1 week, and that was the week that a couple of people have said, you know what, we're going to make that weekly this week. And then you cancel it that week, and they were like, dang. And you kind of ruin their plans, and they save that day just for that and stuff like that. You have created a bit of doubt onto the consistency of your event, and people won't plan around it. If you can run it consistently, people can plan around it. And the instant you skip it, it's just like going to the gym. You skip 1 day, you skip 2 days, you skip another day. The instant you stop becoming consistent, people cannot plan around your event, and it's over. Someone I just saw on Twitter say, like, we started with a 4-man weekly, and now we're up to 24 players. This is awesome. That's how it works. It's a consistency. You have to do it. Even if you run 1 week and only 4 people show up, you still have to run it the next week, because then 12 people might show up. And then you might have one little hype match that people talk about because 2 rivals went at it, and that brings more people or whatever like that. But you can't, like, there's no giving up in running a local, in running a weekly like that. It's so difficult. And yeah, John the Automaton is right. It applies in general, not just for TOing. This is for anything, right? This is for learning how to play the guitar. This is learning how to code. This is learning how to cup stack. This is learning how to crochet. Any one of these things. Consistency is always going to be the key. So honestly, yeah, Little Akiba Game says, 20-year-old me, absolutely, I'd love to run a 100-player event out there. 42-year-old me, maybe if I had the entire local scene as staff and get to sleep for a full week nonstop afterwards. Yep. TOing, TO is a tournament organizer. And so TOing is basically running a tournament. It's the FGC shorthand for running a tournament, basically. And thank you for the subscription, Bretonian. Appreciate it very much. So, yeah, we run monthlies out here. I arrive 3 hours before start time. And, yeah, because some people have told me they've requested vacation time off that day. Yeah, exactly. If they requested vacation time in advance and then you cancel that week, like, that stings, dude. That stings. Me and David went to every Wednesday night fights. And as soon as Vi spread it to Wednesday night fights and the run back, and they had the two different ones, we started just going to Wednesday night fights, but not the run back. But then sometimes we would go to the run back, but not Wednesday night fights. But what that did was it created a habit of ours of not going. And we started, getting to the point where like, oh, we don't have to go to either of them this week. And then we just eventually stopped going. It's interesting how like that consistency and the weird demand, really makes it so that it's easier to keep doing these kind of things. So, but yeah, that's basically it here. Again, again, most people called out the tweet as being nonsense, right? Most people called out the tweet. So it's just like, what is the point of me even talking about it again? I just really wanted to share a lot of the anecdotes and talk about the things and talk about my personal interactions with TOs and stuff and really paint the picture well for people out there to realize just how hard it is, because so many people, there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there. If you just say, hey, this tweet is hogwash, but some people are like, well, is it? And, it's nice to be able to really, it is part of the Smash drama, honestly, Noxo. It's all, it's a bunch of things. The hack stuff, like I said, the Shinku stuff, and also the JDCR thing that happened at DreamHack. A lot of those things started raising up a lot of questions about TOs this past weekend. So I would find a job to set up tourneys. I'm not sure what you mean exactly by that, Justice Gaming, but yeah. So again, TOing is hard work. Don't take it for granted. Don't take your TOs for granted. And make sure you take the time to thank the TOs for the work that they do, please. So, yeah, if you guys have any other questions or anything like that, please, if you are a TO, please let me know in the chat, in the comments here on YouTube below some of your nightmare stories as well, because I'd love to hear some of the crazy shit that's happened to you while trying to even run, I've used to try to run small gatherings at my house, and that shit was a disaster. It was stressful, so stressful, dude. So again, just let me know like some of the crazy things that you've encountered before trying to run stuff, so that more people can see the kind of nightmare stuff that TOs have to go through. But thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Again, hope you appreciate the nuanced conversation. Even when I'm one-sided, I try to at least be a little bit nuanced here. But hope you guys appreciate that. Hope you guys continue to enjoy. It was Tuesday here, and, I'm sure you all are enjoying this greatly, because the day this podcast graced your ears was the most important day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.